On today's World Insight, border diplomacy at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting in Russia. Can it help mend ties between China and India? And after Huawei and TikTok, more Chinese tech companies may end up in U.S. crosshairs. On U.S. social media, some are sounding the alarm over a break in cultural connections with China.
Is that this is really dangerous because it is going to further separate the worlds that we live in.
Here's our host, Tian Wei.
Hello and welcome to World Insight. I'm Tian Wei in Beijing. We start with the foreign ministers' meetings of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Russia is hosting foreign ministers from the other 7 SCO member states, including China and India. Many believe there is an urgent need for an end to the standoff between the 2 major SCO partners. For more on Shanghai Cooperation Organization in Beijing, Rong Ying, Vice President of CIIS, who is China's Institute of International Studies, and also in Moscow, Professor Alexander Lukin, Director of East Asian and SCO Studies from the Moscow State Institute of International Relations in New Delhi, Deepankar Banerjee, who is a Senior Strategic Consultant and former Director and Head of the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. SCO, of course, is an important international and regional platform. Professor Lukin, before we talk about SCO, we might want to touch on the latest results coming out of the foreign ministers' meeting among the BRICS countries, as some in the SCO, in fact, are also members of the BRICS countries. What do you make of the latest announcement about so-called strategic partnership that was announced by the Russian Foreign Ministry and reported by Sputnik News?
Because a strategic partnership between BRICS countries would mean that the strategic cooperation between those 5 countries of BRICS are being developed very, very fast. Well, BRICS was originally organized as a group of countries. It's not even an organization, which basically discussed the questions of global governance. For example, more stake for non-Western countries in such global governance institutions as the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, and so on. But now we see that the cooperation between them, which are big countries of various continents, is developing in many areas, including security area, which is very interesting. Some of these countries don't even border each other, so we should wait and see how actually strategic cooperation between such countries are going to develop.
The reason I asked that, Mr. Banerjee, has a lot to do with the mission also of SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. There are some overlapping of countries between the BRICS and the SCOs. Once again, China, Russia, India, for example. But SCO has its own agenda. It started as security, but now more comprehensive partnership in various areas. So are we going to see a unique path of SCO?
The BRICS organization looks at global issues as significant emerging economic countries in the world. How do we cooperate on international issues that lead to peace and prosperity for the entire world? Whereas the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is more focused in the larger Asian region, and hence how to include issues of security, strategy, and development. So these are, as you said, quite rightly, overlapping questions, and we need to work together collectively on both these.
Professor Rong Ying in Beijing, on many of these issues, whether it's politics, security, as well as people-to-people exchanges, you know, both SCO and BRICS are touching on these days. Now, I'm not trying to let you say which one is more important, because that's really not the question. They complement one another. But on the other hand, we do see quite sharp edges of all these issues, particularly security. Professor Rong, for example, China and India, we have both of you and Mr. Banerjee here. So I want to touch on that. How would that work? How will the bilateral conflict or possibility of conflict likely being discussed in a multilateral platform, or at least on a platform in which the two countries had the chance to interact directly bilaterally?
The agenda, which I agree with Professor Lukin and General Banerjee, is that there are differences, different focuses. For BRICS, certainly it is more focused on global issues, global governance, and as we have seen that the recent foreign ministers meeting and the Chinese side, State Councilor Foreign Minister Wang Yi had called upon the BRICS to play a more important role in terms of maintenance of peace and promoting development. So at least from Chinese perspective, this is more global. Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the so-called SCO, is more regional. But it's still, I think, how the members of these countries, in particular the three major countries, can work out together to promote cooperation and manage and resolve their differences, so that their differences would not become disputes.
General Banerjee, longer term?
And this Shanghai Cooperation Organization is also an organization that would facilitate good relations amongst all its member states. India-China relations as such, I would suggest to my friend Rong Ying as well, major countries, major civilizations, we do not need the help and support of a third party. We can resolve amongst ourselves. And Shanghai Cooperation Organization, in that sense, provides a forum where both India and China, in a friendly atmosphere, can discuss such issues in a constructive manner and come to a resolution.
I see. Professor Lukin, there are so many things going on recently that I'm sure the SCO has a huge agenda to work on. The global security situation has been changing so much, at least the tendency of it. Meanwhile, the global governance, even in the region where SCO has been functioning, have also been changing. And some of the key players within SCO have been having its newest version of challenges and opportunities. So from Russia's perspective, Professor Lukin, how to update SCO so that it will be a responsible platform to engage with one another?
Well, I agree completely with our Indian colleague that SCO as an international organization is not it's not its job to solve issues between its members. It's not the only organization like that. No international organization is dealing with bilateral issues between the members. But these issues should be solved on bilateral basis. And this is, by the way, position not only of India but also of China and other members. First, it gives a good platform for discussion. What SCO can do is creating a generally new, peaceful kind of atmosphere in Eurasian continent. And SCO is originally was developing like three three major directions of its work. One was security, the other another economic cooperation, and also like cultural and civilization cooperation. The security cooperation is the most developed part of it. We have meetings between defense ministers. We have almost annual military exercises of SCO, either all members or several members participate. Peaceful mission, it's called, and general discussions of international issues. Okay. So I think that in this world, which is not very stable because of the policies of Western countries, the SCO should promote stability, and it's doing this. It's promoting stability and security cooperation in Eurasian continent, so that at least Eurasia would be stable politically.
Security issues are, can be categorized in several different ways. One of them is traditional security issues, like security issues between countries, national borders, nuclear issues, things like that. But there's also the non-traditional, so-called, which is the public health issue, could be one of those. Professor Rong Ying, pandemic is the biggest public health problem that we're facing right now globally. And we see some among the SCO countries are struggling in a tremendous way as we speak. Our hearts and minds goes to those in any country that are struggling with the pandemic. But on the other hand, how SCO, not only on the traditional security issue, but also on the latest public health issue, can work together? Could they serve as a nurturing ground of cooperation? Well, the international cooperation has pretty much dragged down by a few countries, for example, the United States failing to participate in the WHO-supported mechanism regarding vaccines.
Indeed, I think there are big expectations, not only from all the 8 members of SCO, but also I think from other countries, including those dialogue partners, observers, and so on. So SCO, remember, it started with a kind of security, regional grouping for resolving the boundary issues, and then so security issue has always been high on the agenda. And over the process of in the course of the SCO development in the past 2 decades, has developed and very well in terms of security, managing and security issues in terms of conceptualization and practical solutions, the new security concept. And also, I think it's working very well so far in managing, promoting sort of confidence buildings and providing some sort of ideas and visions of how to manage regional and even global security issues, but traditional and non-traditional. China, I think, has been working very hard and by together with Russia, India, and others to do that. And last actually, the special meeting of foreign ministers of SCO in last May, a few months back, China offered some thinkings and initiatives how to do that.
Now we have the 3 countries, the 3 of you, Russia, India, China. By the way, China has already several proposals for vaccine. In fact, among the 20 recognized by WHO as the top candidates, 4 of them China participated or fully owned that have been coming into the stage 3 clinical trials. Meanwhile, Russia earlier put forward its own version, which is Sputnik 5. Of course, there were discussions about whether it has been tested thoroughly internationally, but it is also trying to work in that direction. Meanwhile, India, on the other hand, have been also an area people are looking at very closely because the number has been huge, and also as a populous country, how to handle that. As a developing country, how to handle that could also provide a reference to the other countries, General Banerjee. So the question really is, can, under the SCO platform, can countries work on this together. To what extent? What are the specifics? Professor Lu can go first, and then Professor Banerjee, and then we have Professor Yurong.
The COVID-19 situation showed that international organizations in general are not very strong in dealing with such crises, such deep crises like pandemic. We don't hear much from the United Nations, we don't hear much from other international organizations, and there's a general tendency of countries, sovereign states, doing it own and trying to save themselves, and even closed borders and that kind of stuff. Even in the European Union, for example, where they recreated border control, which was not there before. And even vaccine. Russia announced that it created a vaccine. It's not completed this work, but it was registered already, and there was some tests on some volunteers, which were basically successful. Just 2 days ago, I heard that in China there was also a vaccine, and it was also tested on several people, including some government officials. My friend said that it consists of three stages, and they already had 2 shots out of 3. So it means that it's also rather developed. India, as everyone knows, is very developed pharmaceutical. I would say a great pharmaceutical country. So I think that it is very important that within SCO, for example, more developed countries in this area share its experience with others, make people from other members, make it accessible and probably free of charge for people of other countries. And there's a big field of a broad field of cooperation here. And by the way, SCO can show the world of its importance as an organization in this field.
I see.
So I hope that SCO, for example, ministers of public health will meet and discuss these issues and come to and create a program of cooperation.
General Banerjee?
Yes. Well, as you rightly said, the pandemic has come as a major blow to world development and even to global peace. The after effects of this is going to be indeed highly severe. Now, this also provides us an excellent opportunity for countries such as ours, 3 of us, or perhaps within the broader framework of the SCO, to deal humanistically, to deal with the situation. Now, as Professor Lukin and Professor Ronging has mentioned, all 3 countries are producing the vaccines and antidote for this pandemic. India, for example, will bring out by the end of this year 3 fully tested vaccines to deal with this disease. And let 3 of us cooperate in identifying the most suitable and the best vaccine, and then distribute it to the whole world. As Professor Lukin just mentioned, India has got the most developed pharmaceutical industry in the entire world. And India has the capacity to manufacture and produce these vaccines faster than anybody else. Once we agree on this, once we work out the modalities of cooperation, then all 3 of us can work together and provide the world the counter to this pandemic. And this, I think, is an area of unique opportunity and collaboration between our 3 countries.
Professor Ronging, what about for you? Can cooperation happen in the area of public health when there are other severe problems regarding security?
Yeah, I think it can, and it has to be taken place. as we said that all the three countries and the group and SCO as a group recognize and understand the importance of that sense of solidarity and cooperation. And it is also possible in the sense that over the past 2 decades, the SCO as a regional grouping has sort of passed successfully the various kind of tests, be it political, economic, and so on, and become even more and more stronger and more mature. It is true. I think there are many major sort of issues, including bilateral issues, security issues between. Here I'm referring to the China-India sort of boundary disputes and others. But I think that at least so far, both China and India have all expressed their commitment to manage and resolve these issues in the spirit of the agreements and the protocols, and more importantly, I see that both China and India also continue to have a strong interest in SCO by upholding the so-called SCO spirits and also the principles of SCO. So the pandemic is certainly a big test, and I believe that as long as the grouping as a whole and the China and India in particular can work together, we will see SCO will coming out stronger and more sort of mature grouping.
Well, we certainly hope so. But I guess any of those goals that all of you mentioned will take an enormous amount of efforts given the current realities. We want to thank the three of you joining us, Rong Ying, Alexander Luking, Deepankar Banerjee. Really appreciate it, gentlemen. Thank you so much.